So I just told one of my fellow workers a story Friday. Uh, it's about the Cyclops. Back in college, the instructor of a class was talking, and the instructor started getting down on the Cyclops. And I spoke up and I said, just leave the Cyclops alone. And that was the last word that was ever spoken about that in the class, and the subject changed from the Cyclops. I'd kind of like to explain, maybe to the fellow workers and stuff, but it's just my outlook on life, like the stream video that I put out. The Cyclops. Now, if you look back in history or legend, it talks about this giant Cyclops, and the Cyclops was vicious to men and would just eat their whole bodies whole, and it was a monster. Definitely it was a monster. And I don't know, maybe other people feel that all monsters need to be killed, just like all devils need to be killed. Those are religious battles and political battles. What they don't talk about is why the Cyclops was the Cyclops. So the legend behind the Cyclops is he was a giant, a regular, basically just like us, but a whole lot larger. And so he's a big giant, and he went to a witch. And they made an agreement that the Cyclops would trade one of his eyes in order to see the future. So the witch agreed to it, and they agreed to it. So he lost his eye, and the witch gave him the ability to see his own death, and that's it. And that's not what the Cyclops wanted in the beginning. He wanted to see all the future, and the witch didn't give it. So the rest of the public, people say, well, that's his fault for not clarifying this and that. Well, no, the witch did that on purpose and was trying to swindle the guy. And everybody says, well, it's the Cyclops' fault. I don't think it's the Cyclops' fault at all. I think it was a bad negotiation, that in truth he wanted to see all of it, and the witch knew this. And the only thing the witch would do is give him the worst experience of his life and trade for his eye. And now he doesn't have the depth perception. He's not a great warrior anymore. And since the rest of the world laughed at him and shunned him, because he was a great being, he was a giant, and, good at everything, because he was a great being, and he was treated so harshly, he went off on an island by himself, and just stayed by himself, and it was people that would come after him, and he'd just eat them whole. So, the Cyclops was turned into a monster. People can be turned into monsters. They really can. You can look at Coney down in Africa, when he turned his soldiers into monsters. They became inhuman, and the question is, can you turn them back? And whose fault is it? And I understand a lot of people get down on the liberal justice system that we have, but some of those people, like the Cyclops, were turned into monsters, and it wasn't really by their own doing. Now, some of them are just, they're not even human. They're just, I don't know, there was something messed up when they were born. They're not human. They were monsters when they were born. But some people are made into monsters. The question is, can you bring a monster back and make him human? To have compassion and to live a life with all of this. Do you want to do that? So I guess that's basically my outlook on, people. There are good people, and there are very evil people out there. I've seen them, and it's hard to distinguish between the two. There's also tricksters out there, and that's what I see the witch as being a trickster. And I don't back tricksters. But I do back the Cyclops. So, well, that's my story about that.